Why is it that there are some Black women out there who like me, we struggle with self-care, basic self-care? We are still deeply rooted in this cycle of approval. And you can have a overly expressed version, and then you can have a repressed version. In the overly expressed version, as a Black woman who needs this cycle of approval, right, and works in a way to perform for likes, for anything that gives them a sense of validation, then these are the ones who are overly expressed and may do over the top things in order to gain this approval. In the repressed version of Black women, of these groups of Black women, right, these subgroups, is that we'll have someone who recognizes how performative they are expected to be, right? And because they are expected to be performative, they actually choose the repressed version, which is to not do much at all, to underperform, to not do anything, which can seem like a lot of resting, or, some more harsher critics would say laziness. There's this trend going on that I see about like being ugly and how it's a choice to be ugly. And there is a lot of truth in that. But I bring it to you from this angle to show you that sometimes we really don't see how much we fall into the victim, so we don't realize we have the choice. And because all Black women suffer from this, it doesn't matter how it looks like from the outside. You can have someone who is very, very successful looking and someone who isn't, and still they share the same core issue, which is the validation and approval of others. One chooses to perform for it, and one chooses to completely neglect all of self in order to be free from the approval, but they actually just lock themselves into the cycle of self-neglect. So this is one of the reasons why affirmations is really important, because what we're starting to understand is that we need to learn how to validate from within. And a lot of the issues is that the experience of Black women in culture and society over the past several decades, right? Especially as society becomes more commercialized, is where do I fit in? And a lot of Black women's experiences is being in a space where they have to prove themselves to something that is not very interested in them. This creates a really extroverted struggle where you are overperforming, you're emotionally drained no matter what, and you're always having to do more, always having to bring more variety. And there's nothing wrong in the variety. It's just that when it starts to come from this place of I'm not enough because I have to constantly reinvigorate myself in order to gain approval, then we have this sense of losing our true naturalness and being. Let me bring you now to the Gene Keys, which you guys also, if you follow me, know that I talk about a lot on this channel. And Gene Key 10 specifically talks about this idea of self-obsession into naturalness, into being. And what many Black women don't realize is that you fall into this deep space of self-obsession when you are constantly trying to get something to like you that you don't think likes you. When you're constantly trying to get approval from something that is quite indifferent or just not interested in you. You can fall into this place of self-evaluating, or what is wrong with me types of energies, and what can I do to change it, fix it, and be better. And thus, what we have is this need to impress rather than express, which becomes one of the core wounds that I know that, the Gene Keys would say all of humanity faces. But specifically to this subject, I have experienced personally is a very deep core wound amongst many Black women. And it doesn't really take much to see it, especially if you are coming from, the generations that still are really tied to some of the old conditioning. But it doesn't even matter. Even in the newer generations, there is this self-obsession, this need to keep one-upping myself. And is it because of what others want from me, or is it because I'm truly internally guided? So I am planning on doing some more videos on the gene keys, as well as more affirmations targeted specifically to Black women learning how to truly love themselves and feel enough in a world where they've created this kind of like toxic relationship with the world. And the reality of that is that, we're constantly looking for a bad relationship to like us. And so in recognizing that reality, we can build a structure to shift that and create a brand new path for Black women to interact in the world, where they're no longer having to hide from the master's approval while others perform their best talent show for the master's approval. But we actually start to express ourselves authentically through our talents, giving us the true freedom to show variety, to be different, to be beautiful, but it's a different intent. The intent is coming from our inner joy and soul to express, rather than the numbers on the board or how much approval we get from anything outside of us. If this makes sense to you, then you guys will really like the content that I'm putting out and what I plan to continue to put out on this channel to help guide us towards better self-care practice routines. The last thing that I want to say is it's absolutely okay on your self-care journey to want to do the big glow ups and to want to go to the big spas and experience all of those things. It's just important to assess and make sure that you're also doing self-care practices on your own without those things. This actually truly enhances the authenticity of self-care if you're able to practice it on a daily basis within your own world versus just when you go and treat yourself to something big. And not many, the women that really get this know what I'm talking about, because if you're anything of this journey, you probably only treat yourself when you do something big. And it does feel really good, but it's so temporary, because the true practice of self-care happens first in your own personal inner life every day. And then when you go and do these other extravagant things, they're branches of the tree trunk that you already have built within your own inner world. So this is not just me preaching. This is me calling myself out so that we can work more on our self practices and understand why we usually have resistance to it and why we need to break through that resistance and really make that commitment. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video.